really, it was disaster, I would say, was averted. People don't realize that those on ventilators, on high support that are required on ventilators with high oxygen percentage being needed on these patients, they won't sustain if the oxygen is not there even for a few minutes. So many patients have arrived in our casualty brought dead because the oxygen ran out in the ambulances. They were running around from hospital to hospital. This is unacceptable in a country where there is, I think, enough production of oxygen. Till then, we have always had about a 24-hour, at least a 24-hour buffers since this new surge. Before that, it was, we have to fill the tank once a week or so, the liquid medical oxygen. But last few days, it has been almost every 24 hours. But then there was some obstruction to flow of the liquid medical oxygen from Haryana for whatever reason for a half a day. And that, I think, put the logistics back by a few hours for everybody, every hospital. And then that built up the backlog. So it was getting tighter and tighter. And what was happening is when hospitals were running out of it, so we were getting our tank half filled, and they were being diverted to other hospitals obviously they were desperate. So because of that, we reached a critical point in the morning today, and it was really very, very worrying. We were down to half a liter. We had set up a backup of multiple cylinders in series, so that in case this failed, we could take over with a row of cylinders. This is liquid medical oxygen I'm talking about. But the load was so high, we were not sure if it could take that load. The series of cylinders could take that load. But fortunately, a combination of calls and to the government, they were very responsive. But yes, they also finding it difficult because organizing the logistics at this present moment. So they diverted half a tanker from another hospital. They filled that tanker, half the tank in that hospital, and then the rest half came as an emergency supply. The Delhi government had built up a buffer emergency supply. It is built up, and which was helpful, but also really it was disaster, I would say, was averted. And this is not true of us. It has been true of many hospitals. They are right on the brink of their oxygen cylinders emptying out before they reach. That is not something which is very acceptable in a situation where the oxygen is probably, along with steroids, and ventilation, the only things which can save lives. Every other thing is only a possible help, and these are the main things that we need.
You have 345 patients in the hospital right now. Are all of them on oxygen?
We have 385 COVID patients, a few little babies, etc., who are non-COVID, who are in the neonatal ICU and the pediatric ICU, which is another about 20-25. But 385 COVID patients, out of which about 345 odd are on oxygen. It keeps changing a little bit. ICUs are full, beyond full. We have put in stretchers or beds between beds. So we are totally full. Ventilators all occupied almost. The slots to put in the ventilator into the central system are all occupied. There are no beds in the casualty. People are lying in the casualty for hours. We want them to go to some other hospital, but where do they go? We also understand, but it's very difficult. Our systems are getting overloaded, and that's where the government has to basically pitch in the logistics of moving patients and moving essentials. That's all. The work for us has increased manyfold, and that's okay. Every one of my staff member knows that, is ready to do more than they are asked to do. Every member of the nursing community, the nurses and the doctors and the Safai Karamchari, from the people who handle the oxygen cylinders, the tanks, etc. I mean, they are working 24/7.
There were reports from a hospital you worked in before, which is Gangaram, where there were reports that 25 people, critically ill people, died because there wasn't enough oxygen being supplied to them. So, I mean, I think that just sort of brought forth the criticality of oxygen for patients of COVID.
Yes, people don't realize that those on ventilators, on high support that are required on ventilators with high oxygen percentage being needed on these patients, they won't sustain if the oxygen is not there even for a few minutes. And those on high oxygen without ventilators also won't sustain more than a few hours at the most, and they will be gasping for breath. So the criticality of it, as you said, is highlighted by these situations, and this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable in a country where there is, I think, enough production of oxygen. It's the logistics and the distribution. I know it is not easy. Nobody says it's easy, but the fact is, governments have to step in and have to distribute it in a probably what could be called a kind of a cooperative federalism, or call it what. Yeah, I think that it's starting to happen now, and but it took a toll on all of us and the patients before it started happening, and the pressure from obviously the media, and also has made the government build up systems which would hopefully, I'm feeling, in the next 48 hours not leave us constantly on the edge of our kind of existence.
You spoke about the fact that the casualty is full of patients who are coming in, and pretty much everyone who's coming into hospitals now require oxygen. And so patients who don't need oxygens are not even coming in. How do you as a hospital manage the crowds? Because I'm sure there'll be everyone desperate at that stage. So how are you triaging at that time?
It's the casualty is the saddest place in the hospital right now. All casualties. I mean, it's sad for the patients, sad for the families, it's sad for the nurses. Not because because it's the pressure on them, on the nurses and the doctors, to refuse a patient bed who's requiring oxygen. It's impossible to give everybody. They are giving at this present moment. We are giving oxygen, etc. But we cannot accommodate that. There is no physical space. There are patients you will see on chairs sitting with oxygen on them. They have to be moved somewhere, because those on oxygen of certain percentage will deteriorate. Some will improve over a period of time, and they take time. In COVID, they take time to recover. So there has to be, and that's the other thing which we need from the government, is the logistics of organizing movement of patients. Surge capacity increase, like the DRDO hospital, which is opened, that should reach its 1,000-bed capacity. The hospitals that we opened up during the previous surge, they need to be activated, and activated quickly. Mobilize doctors from other places where there is not that much surge, armed forces, railways, etc., where they can be put in these places. It has to be a huge, like a major national disaster. The way when a national disaster happens, what is done. Let these centers be completely controlled by government to send the patients who are spilling over from other hospitals, private or public, to these centers which are to take the spillover. But they have to be moved in ambulances by the government, and the government, the authorities should know these centers, which are the beds vacant, etc., where they can be moved. Because if we tell the patient to go, where do they go? How do they go? They go in ambulances, they run around the whole city trying to find beds, and so many die on the way because oxygen has run out or they're not finding beds. I don't blame the hospitals. Like, so many patients have arrived in our casualty brought dead because the oxygen ran out in the ambulances. They were running around from hospital to hospital. I mean, this is not the way to treat our citizens. I mean, this can surely be the other logistics. These are the two main logistics which have to be taken charge of by the government. And the third most important, I think, curb the numbers.
Right.
Because if the numbers are not curbed, we don't realize, if the peak numbers are today, these patients, a certain percentage will get hospitalized, 10% approximately, and they will get hospitalized 7 days later. Because that is how the timeline is. So this will keep building up. And once a patient gets into a hospital onto an oxygen bed, the average day length of stay in the hospital